7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Center of Light Radio. I'm your fill-in host for today, Dr. Rita Louise. And today, I just want to wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day. You know, everyone deserves a healthy relationship, and what a better day to acknowledge this than on Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is traditionally a time when partners celebrate love for each other and spend quality time with one another, appreciating each other by exchanging sentimental cards and gifts.
Right.
But what about the people who aren't in a relationship? Or what about the people that are in toxic relationships? What about them? Valentine's Day maybe isn't too much fun, but maybe instead of talking about the love between two people, we can take the time and use Valentine's Day as a reminder to love ourselves on the inside and all the way to the outside. And so today we have a special guest for you, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about him, and we're going to get him on the air. Our guest today often entertained himself by pondering the big questions about God and the universe. Little did he know that a day would come when those questions would form the spiritual foundation upon which he would build the rest of his life. A crisis that stripped him of everything that he held dear left him with no choice but to turn inward for answers. This he did, but the peace and stability he so desperately wanted still eluded him. That is until two celestial beings appeared to him and offered him glimpses into his life and the world. Today, he continues to pursue his passion to both learn and teach about truth. He brings his gifts of deep intuition to attune the conversation to the most immediate needs and desires of his audiences. As a live presenter and spiritual teacher, his broad and vast spiritual wisdom and background enlightens and resonates with a wide range of spiritual seekers and light. So, we're just going to have like a little love fest here. So we're going to love on each other. We're all going to love on you. But please welcome to Center of Light Radio, your regular host, Keith Anthony Blanchard. Hey, Keith.
Hello, Precious. How are you?
How you doing?
Good.
I'm great.
Good.
All right, just to like fill the listeners in, why we're doing this little swappy thing is because we're going to be talking about...
It's Valentine's Day.
It is Valentine's Day. But we're going to be talking about your brand new book, Homecoming, Crossing the Bridge to the Soul. And Keith, I have to tell you before I even ask a question, is I read your book and I just want to acknowledge and validate the high vibration that moved through the text. I mean, I just felt inspired, enlightened. I don't know. I got the warm and fuzzies reading through it. And I just wanted to share that back with you because I think anyone reading that material is going to, at least while they're reading it, experience peace and start digging in for some answers. And so, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But
Thank
when
you.
I think of homecoming and the soul, the first thing that I think of is I'm coming back to me. And that was why I thought it would be a great for me to interview you about self-love, because to me, self-love is all about me coming back to me. What do you think?
That's all there is. There is nothing else. There is nothing else that's more important than revisiting, remembering, regenerating just that union, that sacred union, that we fall so far inside of ourselves that we touch the very creator itself. That's what it is for me. And I think that is the ultimate declaration, whether you speak it or not, about who you are, congruent with everything that means anything at all. Because until we love ourselves fully, including myself, I did not have such a peachy day today. I always have great days. I always have phenomenal days. And today was a phenomenal day because even in the lesson, there is the blessing. And it's my goal to be an example of finding myself in the nonsense, my own nonsense, versus letting all this go by when it's done and then looking back in hindsight and go, well, I could have, I should have. I want to feel the wobble because I want to find myself, love, planted in the wobble so I can understand and identify this is not me at all. And I think that is what Valentine's Day is for each and every person. Yes, we have romance. We have all these different kinds of love. But we don't really have that kind of love until we have this kind of love first. We have to feel the vessel.
Well, and I don't think that people can truly enter into a romantic relationship honestly and sincerely and authentically unless they can actually love themselves.
To the level you love yourself is to the level the relationship is going to be healthy
Hmm.
on
So
both
what?
sides. And then you have the self-love of the person and the self-love of the person, or the lack of, times two. And then the coming together or the not coming together exponentiates it and curves it within itself at least one time. And it becomes this, and I understand it. We've all lived it, and some of us still live it. And there are people we love immensely. It doesn't mean because we love someone that we have to be near each other. In fact, the love, fertilizing the love between two people, if it requires a distance, that's healthy love, because some trees cannot be planted next to each other. They can love each other in the forest because everyone has a role.
So, we're talking about homecoming, finding ourselves again, but how do we lose ourselves? How do we get into this predicament in the first place?
Never knowing how to recognize red flags, be it with people, be it with situations. It's just an unconsciousness, an unawareness. Some people may have become aware of such models and ideas and just choose not to go there because it requires a little bit of work to stretch that awareness muscle. When you want to expand your body mass, we have to go to Planet Fitness, whatever it's called, and we have to do some work to kind of stretch the balloon a little bit. And some people just like the lazy approach. Regardless, the law does not fluctuate for anyone. It says, I love you immensely. In fact, I'm going to show you, because I love you so immensely. Happy Valentine's Day, my beloveds, forever, every day. And I'm going to give you exactly as your loving parent that you asked for. You keep asking for this stuff over and over and over. I don't want faith, Rita. I don't want faith. I don't want that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be in it to win it.
To win it.
To win it. I want to skin that spiritual, metaphysical cat. No animals are hurt here.
I mean, and it has been my experience that when you're not in it, when you're not, there's not awareness, when you're living your life based on ego, um, you know, spirit, the universe, God, whatever word you want to put there, will give us what we need. And sometimes what we need is, and I like a little adversity. Actually, my more favorite way of saying it is, the cosmic 2x4 up the side of the head to kind of get your attention. There's an author, John Welshons. He studied with Ram Dass for a long time, and his take on it was challenges are put in front of us so that we can learn the lesson, so that we don't react in the same way, or we can look at what's limiting us within us. So what's your take on, when the universe presents a little adversity in your path?
I think that is actually the purest love. Because
Ouch.
it's not, yeah, absolutely. Why wouldn't it be? Because, I want a brand new Ferrari and God says, you can have it. And we say we want this, the parking spot at Christmas time at Walmart. You can have it. Maybe God's love is so immense. I can feel, Rita, I can feel this well up in my being. Wow. Wow. I can feel it. It's so immense that it's willing to, if you had a child and they were choking, whatever it took, whatever it took to get your child to come to life. Same way, likewise, if you have a dear friend of yours that is just being a idiot, out of your love for them, if you grab them by the shirt and slap them across the face, it wakes them up yet again. And I think that our love from Creator is so infinite that it says, trust me, I know what is for your best good. And like those issues with me and moving out or having to find a place in such a short time, it's to see how we do in the wobble. How do we plant ourselves in the wobble so we can get out of the squabble and continue to move up, 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 up. Inward is upward, upward is forward, toward a something. I think it's God's greatest love when our adversities are simply saying, hi, this is the mountain you must climb, you must challenge. You can do it. Do you want it is what becomes the question.
So how do you, because I think this is where a lot of people get stuck. How do you separate you, Keith Anthony Blanchard, host of Center of Light Radio, from the wobble? Because so many people just get stuck in the wobble and they, get into their victim pity mode and they can't break free of this is who I am and this is what's going on around me that I have to deal with.
You don't separate yourself from it. It's like almost you choosing to try to disembody from something that you have created. Exactly what I described in that last paragraph or marathon a minute ago was you don't separate. It seems like spiritually, yes, I want to rise above it. You cannot rise above it. You can only rise strangely through it. You can't rise above it. You have to be in it with it. It's not like when I was describing, I'm trying to be centered while all this stuff moves around me. I want to be the nucleus of all the excitement and all the agitation of things, so to speak. So that I, as the governing factor, the proton, the nucleus of, it's not a separation or a detachment from it. I want to find me in it. And so in some way, there's actually a unity.
Because you're the center of the wobble.
It's because I understand it, and because I fully understand it, now I can be the influencer of my reality that I've never was able to be because I'm yet in trouble again.
So what do you think the lesson is for you with this whole move thing? I mean, I know that it's been very frustrating for you and, challenging, with the whole situation that's going on, but what do you think is the lesson in there for you? Or have you not got there yet?
I think, I have not got there yet, but I think just off cuff, when you asked the question, the inspiration that came through, be it head stuff or heart stuff, was I had been declaring to some of those around me for about 2 years, some months ago, I want to get out of this place. And so it's come around. And I can say it's the landlord, but I will tell you, as I shared with you in the radio green room, I have a right to be pissed off at the landlord. I do. I don't like the lady. She's insensitive. I have a couple of choice words I won't use. And I'm okay with using choice words. I think she's a pig, honestly. And not because of her looks.
Well, that's not that bad.
And right, exactly. Thank you. And it's not because of her looks. It's because she's ugly, period. And I said, are you uprooting me from my home of 7 years? You've been here only 3 of those because the property was bought. I've tolerated your dog. I'm a writer. Your dog gets up at 8. I host radio shows. You should be ashamed of yourself. And there's just, and she gives me 35 days. I said, I have no problem leaving your premises. Give me at least 60. And if I leave before, I'll tell you. And she's just hard. And there's no sensitivity there. And it aggravates me. I choose to let it. Hell, I'm not going to buffer my words. It aggravates the living shit out of me. That someone can be so goddamn nasty when she's not taking responsibility. And what truly pissed me off, Rita, truly, when she sends me the leasing contract and clause, whatever number 10 says, you should not have extensive noise. Extensive noise that would violate other people around you, blah, blah, paraphrase.
But she's the owner, so it don't matter.
Legally. And so, again, it goes to my aggravation with her as the face of what's happening in humanity. She's just a poster child for humanity, and it's in my face, and it's blunt, and I understand it, and but I'm trying to find me in it so I can now become the influencer of such things in my life that in the past have brought me yet again to this very place. I don't want to look back at this in hindsight. I want to correct it now so that when I get settled in a new home, a new consciousness, a new place to dwell, that I don't have to do the work in hindsight, that I can say, I'm actually going to settle into this new garb, this new place, this new thing. Self-love.
So two things. I mean, it sounds like you asked the universe for this, and I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that the universe gave you plenty of opportunity in the last 2 years to move. And since you didn't, it kind of gave you a little 2x4. And then with regard to the landlord, and I'm just going to, okay, because this is what I do for a living, disrespect. I feel like that's being very triggered in you by the landlord. Just saying, but we can move on.
So let's move on. And I would like to take this time to say thanks to Dr. Rita for being here and playing in the Garden of Shiva, the Garden of Soul, in the kingdom again, just being innocent children. But I also want to say that Dr. Rita, she's a very accomplished author, teacher. She's a medical intuitive. She can close her eyes or not close her eyes, eat a sandwich while she's doing it, whatever her way is, and say what is aurically, etherically moving into the denser layers of your body, why you are ill, your dis-ease, your disease, all that cool spiritual cliche stuff that says one may not be in balance. She has that gift. And she has a new book out now. Please help me read it. It says
Functional Dance of the Empath and Narcissist.
Give us an overview of that, please. Now I'm taking over the host.
Okay, but you only get like a second.
So tell us about that.
You know, and I released my book for Valentine's Day. See, I think your release timing is perfect because it really is about finding yourself. My book, it talks about why people continue to get in relationships with toxic individuals and offers some support as to what's going on inside of them. The preface of my book is, in order to not get in toxic relationships, you need to heal the wounded parts within you and learn to love yourself. You know, because once you learn to love yourself, then you are going to attract to you healthy, individuals that are going to be able to love you from an unconditional perspective.
So in this
So with that said, wait,
go ahead, go ahead,
you're
darling,
done.
please,
You're
go
done
ahead.
because
Go-
you're on vacation. You are on hosting vacation, baby. Okay. So, but I want to ask you, in your opinion, what does it feel like? I don't even want. I'm not even asking what does it mean. What does it feel like to love yourself?
I was going to say, when you were talking about your book, Toxic Relationships, immediately came to my experience, right? So I'm living in this house with a friend of mine as the landlord, and so we had a great relationship. She had a dog, and we worked it out, and it was cool. Bring your dog in, okay, no big deal. And so it seems I didn't choose it. She sold her house, and this person comes in, and this whole kerfuffle starts to happen, right? And so what came to mind as you were talking about your book was toxic relationship. Even though we never had a toxic relationship until 3 weeks ago when I said I had enough. It became toxic. It became this thing. What was your question again, please? I wanted to say that. I want to get that out.
Okay. What does it feel like to love yourself? I mean, because there's the concept of self-love, and maybe you could address both what is self-love and then what does that feel like? Because I don't know that people really get what it feels like, from a kind of internal perspective of what self-love is.
Again, as I said a little earlier, is for me, when the situation is happening, and the divine principle spirit says, it's best that you address the situation while it's happening because it's still potential energy. It's not yet static. It's because the longer you wait, the greater the thaw will have to be. So that's why I'm addressing it now. So it doesn't begin the congealing process. And so for me, self-love is why this situation, again, with your book description, about I want to find the self-love in this dynamic, what is so convincing, not only to me, but it's the human condition. The self-love in the movement that so pulls me into it. It says, I am your master. You will listen to me. I have so much desire to fill myself with that very self-love that I'm willing to not do this work on the back half. I'm doing what I can to be aware and present with my aggravated self and allowing myself that grace to punch that metaphorical pillow to say, God damn it, I'm pissed off. And in such a way, I'm declaring, because I'm doing it consciously and saying, I want to vent. I want to regurgitate this nastiness that I've chosen upon myself just out of me. It's my way. And so I think this can be a very, very powerful tool. Again, the key word for me would be consciously. That you punch a pillow because you want to do this in a healthy fashion for therapy. Or you go to karate. Or you do whatever it is that you do to help you get rid of the extraneous, exerting stuff that happens in one's life to vent about this thing. And like I said a little earlier, Rita, I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I have phenomenal days forever. And now that this opening, this 2020 door is happening, I'm seeing a part of Keith that has long been buried. And I think the greatest discipline, devotion to oneself, going back to me, as you said earlier at the very beginning, was to show intention to finding my true self in the mess. It's just that. And that creates the process of regeneration and the process of generation, children after children. And so for me, it's simply of wanting something so badly, like my next breath. That's what it is for me.
Well, and I think it's interesting that you bring up the 2020 transition because, I think that we got like this twinsy thing going on. Because I really feel like 2020, like I left a skin behind, like I shed a skin and this new Dr. Rita has emerged and like see the same thing in you. And then we both released books like within, a week of each other, like the same day almost, same topic, different angle toward it, really talking about self-love. But one thing that you talked about a little bit earlier was about being congruent, and being your authentic self. And I feel like when we're congruent with ourselves, we are loving ourselves. What's your thought on that? Sorry, I didn't mean to ask
That
hard questions.
they're exactly the same. They're the same. Congruency. We can use the word synchronicity, serendipity, alignment, coincidence, coinkydink, as people say. No matter what we call it, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Allah, God, my grandmother who is so beautiful, she just turned everything to go. It didn't matter what we call the most beautiful thing that exists, that we're all aspiring to. I truly just had a consciousness shift. I truly left the Keith domain and went into this place where I understood what you offered. It's almost like I'm still dwelling there. And it's kind of difficult
Sorry.
for me to. No. I'm present. It's just, it's like I went to a place beyond words.
Come back, Keith. Come back.
I'm here, but your camera froze. Let
We're
me go
here
try to
on
fresh
Center
it.
of Light Radio, and I'm your fill-in host, Dr. Rita Louise, and we're interviewing Keith Anthony Blanchard and talking about his new book, Homecoming: Crossing the Bridge of the Soul. One of the things that I notice about you, Keith, and I'm hoping you can vocalize this. I don't know if you've ever even thought about it. But whenever you talk, this is the first time I've ever heard you speak in kind of a negative, pissy kind of place. You always talk in a very upbeat, a place of gratitude. You always find the beauty in everything. And I just find it interesting, kind of the contrast of what's going on. And that was totally not a question. Because one of the things that I have been finding, I'll put me in here, is that the importance of finding the beauty in everything that you're experiencing, even if it's adversity, and finding gratitude even in the adversity, even though like you might not figure out why you had the adversity till, a year later or 5 years later. So that was almost a question.
I see the beauty in the negativity. So between the positivity, most people think the cure-all is positivity. I'm going to be positive today. You're deluding yourself. I wouldn't say you're lying to yourself, because if you knew to do that or not do that, you would do or not do that. You're deluding yourself because of past delusions passed on you, karmically, genetically, culturally, socially, whatever all that is. So I see the beauty and say, she's a pig. She's acting like a pig. I have every intention to use a bar of soap and go in the bathroom on the mirror and write pig and put a picture there. Why? Doesn't mean I'm going to do it. I'm acting it out so I can get to the end of the movie that's aggravating the living shit out of me, so I can be done with it. So I'm not trying to be a bastard or this or that. I'm trying to say, this is how I feel in the moment, and I want to regurgitate this for myself because I love myself. I want to understand what this is so it no longer has any power over me. Okay. So I can be mad as I want, and when I'm done being mad, I'm done being mad. So now I can go, what next? So I'm not going to stuff this down to where it poisons my divine matrix. I'm just not going to do it.
And so it sounds like we have, I'll say, different methodologies. For me, when I get into that energy, I get a lot of offers on this one. I'll go clean my house, scrub a bathtub, do dishes, rake leaves. I really like raking leaves and sweeping. Those are my two favorite. Like, I got energy and I got to burn it off, and I'm going to get that last little teeny tiny piece of leaf that's in the grass. Damn it. And so, but I think everyone has their way of moving through that energy, moving through the energy of the obstacle that the universe has placed in our way.
We're bored. We're so eternally, we're bored. We are bored. Think about the nature of the universe. If the universe was satisfied with itself, it would not create another star system. It would not create another galaxy. It would not. It's just like, I just want something new, and it always wants something new, and it turns within itself, and it turns within itself, and it turns within itself, creating greater ideas and greater expressions of itself. And so eternally, we have been bored. So we said, let's go play the linear bipolar game for a little while. So we come down here, and we still bored. We look for these things to have, and then when we're spiritual creatures, we look for these things to unhave. Because we want to go back to be eternally aware, so we're no longer eternally bored. It's this nonsensical game that turns within itself and it goes nowhere. And I know, as a spiritual human being who loves everyone immensely, except those who piss me off, so I love you but I don't like you, is I just understand that there's something beyond, like you, Rita. I'm sure you probably, like me, feel that you've been here many upon many, many times.
So I have to tell you, my goal in this lifetime is packing in so much stuff, and working through so much energy so that, either I don't have to come back here, or that I'm cleaning up like massive amounts of karma so that when I come back, I can be a freaking millionaire and really not have to do anything and just hang out and, be ultra cool and have fans and followers and, like that.
That sounds
That's
like.
my goal.
Have you seen the first movie of The Matrix? The Matrix, the first one?
Mm-hmm.
You remember when Cypher says, I don't care, just plug me back in. I want to be somebody important. I want to have lots of money. And he's eating this big old ribeye steak. Yeah. Plug me back in the Matrix and help me forget. If I'm coming back, just.
Well, I mean, my feeling is that, there, at some point in time, we're going to have to get off the wheel, hopefully, and I just assume that be sooner than later, and I think individuals like you, you're actively pursuing that connection. So, here's a better question. Why pursue that connection with God? Why bother? Why be on a spiritual path?
Why does anyone do anything that brings them joy? It's a very simple question. Let's get God out of the equation. Let's add a steak. Let's add a vegetarian sandwich. Why does anyone do what they do? That becomes the question. That's a very powerful, dear Lord, that is a cosmic question. Why do you do what you do? Why does anyone do what they do? We're not talking 7.8 billion humans. We're talking infinite seas of galaxy of creatures. Why does anyone do what they do? Because they love it and it brings them joy. Why pursue what we call God? I met this woman some years ago. She loved pulling weeds. She will.
Okay.
You don't have to pay her. She will come over and pull weeds. It's her meditation. Some people it's gardening. For Keith Blanchard, it's guitar. For Dr. Rita, it's this. And so why do we do what we do? Because we want to always stay in the garden of innocence, to have the joy that we know we infinitely deserve. And so all these things come into play. But when I say all these things, it's actually quite simple. Happy Valentine's Day. It's self-love. I do this because it brings me infinite joy. And when I do my work, Rita, there's something that happens. And I love giving. And in the giving, I feel the self-love begin to vessel through me in a recycling way, through myself to other people. And it begins to expand and expand. And the divinity between myself and the tribe to me, vice versa, it just begins to grow. And for that alone is why I pursue God, those things, because there is a world that exists out here, and it's very convincing. I bought into it recently as to why I've been confessing. But there is something in here that is so far greater, I am professing, that is so beyond infinity even. Infinity is actually even expanding. This is part of a past life experience for me, of being so close to the light. This is not a showboat or anything. I'm speaking from experience and knowledge as to why, to answer your question, why this is so has a hold on me.
Well, one of the things I was thinking about, and we're both this way. We have. I mean, I don't really know what you did prior to doing this work and your music. I mean, I had like a day job for like 15 years, and then I walked away from that. But for most of my adult life, I mean, I've been doing my work. You've been doing your work, which includes, playing your instruments and making music because that's just part of your joy. So what has that been like for you? You know, what what made it so that you could follow your passion versus just, having a day job and doing that thing? What was that experience like?
It was like growing up, I remember wanting to play music. I just wanted to do it. My mother eventually said, Keith, you would probably be an awesome musician. Just go get a job. And I ignored her, and I stayed true. Many years later, playing with world-class players, bass player of Starship, the drummer of Hank Williams Jr., I dropped names to say I felt grateful to play with such caliber players. And my mother came in town when I was left Louisiana, come to Memphis, and we played the last song for the set, which was Lady by the Little River Band. Lady, let me take a look at you now. And it brought her to tears. And so I said, we're going to be right back. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you shortly. Walk off the stage. My mother says, come here, Keith. I said, what's that? She says, I know that as a young man, I told you to follow my guidance or my lead, whatever, about getting a job. I'm impressed. I'm glad you ignored me. And I went, oh my God. I've been wanting to hear that since I was a child. What was it like for me to play music and do what I love? I think I made a conscious, even though I wasn't fully conscious yet, but a conscious a decision about. My father taught me that lesson. He would do yard work, and all my friends were riding their bicycles, jumping ramps on the street. And I wanted so bad to go. He says, Keith, when you're done with me, this is back in the days before the weed eater. We used cane knives to edge around the yard. And says, when we're done, you can go. And then by then, when I was done, all my friends would go inside because their parents had called them and say, it's time for supper. Get ready for bed. It was done. And I declared, I will never not do what brings me joy ever again. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. And I made a decision. It's been fun. It still is fun. I love playing for people. Honestly, I love showing off. I love being a ham. I love it.
No way.
I love it. It helps me be vulnerable. Say, this is what I am. I'm a nut. I'm serious. I'm passionate. I'm sincere. It's been fun, and I love doing it. I will always do it. It's another level of being in love with yourself. Loving yourself so immensely, when that begins to curve within itself, you become a greater possibility, a brighter human soul that says, I'm done with being whipped on the ass by the cosmic 2x4, a book by Rita Louise. How you like me now?
That has become my new theme song. Toby Keith, how do you like me now? I used to have like a worse like Rita song, it used to be Peace in My Heart, and now it's Toby Keith. And so like I'll play it on my headset at the gym, and I'll be like on the elliptical going, it's kind of funny, mouthing the words at the gym. It's anyway. So to me, when we're following our passion, we're following our bliss. But I think a lot of people are not able to recognize when they're getting those promptings or how to separate out, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and this is what I love, and this is what's going to feed my soul. Do you have any advice for them?
Jump.
But how do
Jump.
you separate?
I understand you don't. That's the thing. Again, we separate. We don't separate. We amalgamate. I understand practicality. I totally get it. That's being human because you are a human until you become divine, and then that shit won't bother you ever again. So we got this tier we have to climb, this level we have to achieve of this level of non-concern about the mundane things that don't mean anything. And so for me, it's like, for me, Rita, it's a very easy walk. I've learned to not put so much effort, struggle, strain, and stress. And adversity does show itself up in a long time. It shows itself up in the last couple 3 weeks. And so I just try to look at it very straightforward and say, you're just an illusion. The Buddha, in fact, when he became illumined, he supposedly sat at a pond under a tree, and his opposite self appeared to him and said, I am real. And the Buddha said, put his finger on the ground and says, the earth as my witness declares that you are not. And he became explosively illumined. And he saw through his nonsense. It's a climb. It's truly a climb. But it's a beautiful climb. It's important. And I think if everyone wants peace individually and collectively, the work needs to be done. You mentioned 2020, the door being open. It's open. And whatever you want, whatever you want, God's going to say, yes, you can have it. Pick up your gate.
So I have two questions. I think I'll start with this one. So, can you have a day job, someplace that you go to make money because you have bills, you have children, you have a mortgage, you have a car, whatever, and also follow your bliss and follow your passions and move forward?
Thank you for bringing me back, because you brought me back to the very question you asked again. I'm being alofted.
Sorry.
Yes, you can. 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 But you have to ask yourself, how am I truly loving myself and serving my life? I understand practicality. I get it. Are you at least taking a bite of an apple at all? Or are you just letting the apple sit there to rot? So if you take a bite of an apple, you might realize that, I kind of like apples now. And you start taking more bites. And so 5 years hence, and you look back and you go, oh my God, I just transformed. I metamorphed into this beautiful idea. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You don't have to pigeonhole yourself. I will tell you this. Listen, this is so redonkulously powerful. When you do what you love, if we think God is love and label God as love, and God is infinite, so there's no time in love. When you do what you love, time passes like that. You go to the doctor's office or the dentist's office. I just had deja vu. You go to the doctor's office or the dentist's office, and you there for a half hour, an hour, just in wait. It's eternity and it's hell. And so when you do what you love and you're living in the space of God and that love that you are, at your essence, the 24 hours, which we all know, it doesn't seem like 24 hours anymore. It does not. The gate begins to open up, and you start playing in the reality of eternity. So what I'm saying to those that you posed a question for is, when you begin to do what you love, you don't have to find time. Time begins to find you. It's a different dimension, a different reality, a different way of seeing and being. That is something else. No one can tell you how to do it. I, Dr. Rita, many of the like can only walk you to the door. They don't know words to explain.
You have to bite the apple.
The apple. Adam and Eve, the apple. The wisdom of God. Exactly. And it comes full circle. It's a regeneration process. And no one can tell anyone how to do it. We can say, doing this thing worked for me. And you go, I kind of understand. But you have to refine that process to understand that infinity is actually limited. That's a word, a limiting word we used to describe something that we can't even freaking understand. That is the fertile field I'm going to, Rita. And you are, and many people are, but that's the door that's open. And the door that's open says you can have what you want. You can be piss and vinegar mad, but I'm not going to let that shit settle in my spirit. I'm going to regurgitate it. Or you can just be joyful and you can have everything you've ever wanted.
I with my clients, I often have ones that are really not happy with their jobs, and they pulled their energy back, and they just like are showing up, and they want to change jobs or want to change careers. And I tell them it's like, if you want the universe to work through you, you have to love your job and you have to put the energy into your current job and all the things that you're doing, because when you pull it back, everything stops, because now I'm back and nothing's moving through me. But when you're embracing everything in life, then spirit can move through you. Then that's when miracles happen. Would you agree?
I love it. You just again echoed what I said earlier. When those things are happening, I find that job that you people are pulling back, you said no to do this thing. That's exactly what I was describing. When this energy that's happening around me is not yet static and frozen and anchored in a truth that can become for any of us, I'm trying to find myself as the master wielding the lightsaber in it, so I can use it beneficially. In using my will as a push, using my spiritual will as a pushing raw kinetic energy into a place I want it to be in my betterment.
So going back to where we just were, what about the fear? I know that for many people, fear, even though they might not use this word, they might procrastinate, they might self-sabotage, but bottom line, there's this huge level of fear. What have you done, or what do you recommend people do in order to address it, acknowledge it, transmute it? I'm good with any suggestions on that.
What I have realized, for everyone within listening distance of my voice, I am going to give you something that will shorten your spiritual journey by half. I've realized that, for one, everyone has fears. I realized that the greatest fear I can have was admitting to myself that I am afraid. When I realized that, I became aware and disembodied from the very fear itself, because I am now aware of the one I see down here as being afraid. I created half of my journey. I shaved it off by realizing I am not this thing I'm afraid of. That person down there that is who they think they are is simply afraid. I became empowered. I understand the fear. That's why I'm going through this nonsense. I'm going through it. Truly. I truly get it, I am a student. I love being a student. That furthers me as a teacher. And I love being congruent. And so, yes, I understand the fear. But no matter what, if you would probably stand next to someone like Dr. Reader or myself, and you tell us how afraid you are of heights and water, and you're on a cliff and there's a moving river, we're going to nudge you in. With all love, we're just going to push you in. We're going to jump in after with you, but we're going to grab you and say, Geronimo, and we're going. I get it.
And we'll laugh really hard while that's happening.
Yeah. And so you have to jump. You have to jump. If your life is comfortable is good. Most people settle for comfortable. Many people settle for content. And that's beautiful, but is that really all you want? I think not. I think you want something else, but simply you're just afraid. I'm afraid. We're all afraid. We're all trying to up our level, but you have to want it. And so those fears are there as grace. It's God's greatest grace to say, I love you so much, but I myself cannot violate universal law, or the whole thing would collapse and you wouldn't exist, nor would I. That's not going to happen. So what I do is give you this mountain to say, Mount Everest, go for it. Do your thing. I'm with you. If you knew who's beside you every moment of your life, you'll never be afraid again.
Well, in my experience, I've found that the more you're able to just look at that fear, and just go, okay, I'm scared to death, Okay, I'm scared to death, but it's not going to stop me from doing it. Then the next time something comes up that's scary, you can go back to that earlier situation and go, well, yeah, but when I did it the last time, this was the outcome, and that worked out okay.
I see that in you. I see. One of my nicknames for you is Spitfire, Firecracker, and Powerhouse. And actually, oh my God, that's the Dr. Rita Trinity. Spitfire, Firecracker, and Powerhouse. And you're this little ball of dynamite energy. You are very knowledgeable about a lot of things, lots of things, beyond the
It
norm,
even
so to speak.
scares me sometimes.
I get it, and I see that in you so effortlessly, and it reminds me of, you and I are like cosmic Broham and Sistar. We know each other. We know each
Hmm.
other beyond meeting 8 whatever plus years ago, and
Hmm.
it's so effortless for you and I to be honest and vulnerable and raw and just like this is just whatever. And so, but I see that in you. I see that you play rather, on yourself because you love yourself. And today is Valentine's Day. Let me ask you this. Let me play host real quick. What is Valentine's Day mean to you? How does it feel to be Dr. Rita? Do you find yourself in these situations? Or are you playing more in the garden of your heart? What's it like to be you?
Well, I would say, and I'm just going to be totally straight with the listeners, up until probably about a year ago, I didn't really even like myself that much. And so 2019 and 2020 is all about me crossing that bridge to the soul and just honoring myself, owning that Spitfire, firecracker powerhouse, the Trinity, the Keith Trinity.
That's it. And see, I see you that way, and those are so complimentary. For me to you, wow, you're a powerhouse. You have so much knowledge, and not because you're a heady person. Knowledge is a beautiful thing. You understand, and you understand the dance and how to move and all that. You know, being the radio show expert that you are, you know how to dance with the best of them. You can keep up with anybody. And that's some pretty powerful tap shoes to field on, really.
Thank you. But I'm going to ask you back. This was going to be my start off question, but I've kept it to the end, because we're kind of talking about this journey back to ourselves, coming home, but and I need you to be honest, okay, with this question, because it really is kind of personal. Um, where do you see yourself on your journey, as far as your self realization or your coming fully home to yourself?
I see myself complete with my journey. That's as honest as I can get. Now I can give it the fragments, which I will give you a few, just so we can play the
Okay.
game of the all and for the dramatic effect. I see myself fully complete with my journey. Why I came, what I'm here to do, what I am doing, and what I will do. And I'm really comfortable in my skin. As coincidentally, I love myself. I love what I have to offer. One of my best attributes is being me all out. When I'm in my passion, my sincerity, my humility, and vulnerability, I do see my work elevating. In fact, knowing that my work with some of these avatars, as well as Swamji, who is, I'm blessed to be in his physical proximity. And Rita, when he touches me, I shift. I truly shift. It touches my hand, my eye, my back, and then next thing you know, 6, 7, whatever months later, I understand I've been impregnated. I've been impregnated with divine light. These packets of knowledge and wisdom and energy. This is not a bragging point. It's a point that I've come to a point to realize I'm afraid. I'm afraid. I'm not afraid, but something is holding me back. So in that holding back has to be a fear. And I'm acknowledging
Hmm.
it publicly to realize that what is it I'm afraid of? It's not really what people think. I really don't give a shit. It's not that, and it's not about being accurate. Let me process that. But I see my work coming into a place where I've been granted the liberty, That's a good word in this regard. The liberty to speak. And speak and trust, which I trust wholeheartedly, that when I speak, it's for the highest good. And there's the highest good moving through me. I have that level of trust. So thank you for asking me that question, because it reminds me that I have work to do, to be honest with myself, so that in another guest host, Rita Louise, I can answer your question.
Okay. Well, up until, and I'm going to say really this past year, people would talk to me about ascension, and I'm like, I don't know. When I look at the world and I look at the people in it, I'm not feeling it. But I've changed my opinion about that, because I look at people like you. I see my own path. I see other people that in our circle, our community, that I'm going to use the phrase that I feel like we're becoming bodies of light. Do you feel like that's tied to this ascension process that people have been talking about for a long time?
People throw that word around.
Oh, like yeah, I know.
Exactly. When you started off, I knew exactly what you're talking about. They use that spiritual pseudo word. They throw it around like it's just newspaper, and it doesn't mean anything. You can call this, nail clippers or a glass of water. It doesn't mean what you call it. There is work involved, and there's a process and a responsibility, a duty, and an obligation as to why you're incarnated. It says you have to stretch yourself. You have to, before we can ever know God, we have to know ourselves to know God, because it lives in us. We have to know ourselves to ever get to it, to understand what it is. So my thoughts about this ascension process is, I truly know inside my bones that this 2020 door that's open, we can use all the numerology we want. Let's not get into that. Yeah. But in short, this door that's open, you can shave many, many miles off your spiritual journey, or you can compound it twice as much. It's truly all up to you. So basically, we have the force. Use the force, Luke. It's all around you. It's coming through. It's happening. It's happening everywhere, all the time, in any aspect of life. So you can truly find your best passion and sincerity, be it listening to Rita, myself, whoever, listening to audio, whatever it takes. It's not about any of that. It's about your want to breathe in that thing that creates that thing that we all want. That's what's happening. And so I just know that what's happening in the world really is there's this great separation. And for those who want in, it's happening now. It's going to log off soon. Whoever's in is in, whoever's not is not. And it simply seems that way to me. And is that what's happening to you? Do you see it that way?
That's my feeling. Yeah. That people are being given a choice to become aware, to become whole, to look at their junk, and work through their junk so that they can become congruent, and become these, I can't really think of another word. I'm kind of liking body of light right at this moment, but then there again is this whole other category of people that do not want to choose. They don't want to take the red pill, and so they're just stuck in this reality. And, I don't know where that's going, and like I said, when people talked about ascension to me 2 years ago, even a little over a year ago, I was like, yeah.
They even talk about 5D. You haven't even handled 3D yet. 5D, ascension, the aliens are coming. They're going to take us all off the earth. Jesus is coming. Look, I understand. So to go back to what you posed a minute ago, I understand the return of the Christ. I get it. In fact, what most people don't know about me, Dr. Rita, the divine principle, other than the divine principles and all this really cool dialogue with spirit, kind of like kneel down and wash, is the return of the one we know as Jesus. That's part of it. So the divine principle is about, yes, the return of the Christ, the Messiah ship. But this is also about what I truly believe as an incarnation, not only, Swamji's here. All Paramahansa Yogananda, all these Christed beings are here. We're Christed beings in awakening, But the one we know personality wise is Jesus. I have no doubt he's going to make an appearance and say, I'm that guy you've been waiting on. And everybody's going to say, no, you're not. You don't look Middle Eastern and you don't see any wounds in your hands. And so this is all part of the beautiful, beyond understanding unfoldment. Everything that we think is going to happen isn't. And everything we think isn't is going to happen. So it's kind of like the whole thing. What we truly think to be divine is truly going to beckon our meditation to say, what in the hell is this? Hell, heaven is this enigma? Do we want to be balanced, or do we want to play with monkey-minded ideas?
So, in order to stay in line and in order to stay congruent, how do you recommend to people, or what do you do in order to not let your ego take you to some place, or not have something drift you off your course of moving forward and keeping you in that choice of moving forward?
That's a fantastic question. Again, 50% of the work is acknowledging that, accepting that, allowing that, doing that. That's 50% of the work. The other 50% does not happen without that initial step. So you have to want it first. That being said, so how do you take the 51st, the 52nd, the 53rd, and so forth and so on, step to the graduation of what you actually already are? You have to become zero. You have to become nothing. You have to fall inside of yourself so in such a way, if you're thinking while you're falling, you have to let go more. So for me, probably like you, Rita, as well, when I go into spirit mode, because I've been doing this, you become a bass player. You might warm up for a couple of seconds and you're good to go. Your fingers are so limber because you're used to it. Same thing, being a fireman, a policeman, or whatever. But for me, I have my moments when I go so deep, like many of us, but when I do talks like now, or in presentations or interviews, all I have to do, and this can apply to anyone, again, the door is open. You have to want it. And in your wanting it, you can make magic happen. We have it easier than masters before us because the light is beginning to push. The light does not mean positivity. This is the light. Sometimes that light pushes. Sometimes we eclipse that light, but it does not mean that light is not pushing. That is now. And so equally, when you try to be sincere, that's the gig. Passionately sincere to say, I want to open up that gate. And when you fall into it and there's no more thinking, sit and rest there. When you rest there, you are open. That's the gig. You have so much grace that surrounds, not only around you, that is permeating every fiber of your being. Fall, fall, fall. When you find no thought, sit there. That's the magic.
But what if you can't get rid of the thought?
You contact me or you contact Dr. Vita. We will grab you and throw you off the thought cliff into the moving conscious stream. That's it. And that's why people, you, me, others of the like, that say, if I want to learn how to be a ballroom dancer, I don't assume to know what ballroom dancing and says, that's the East Coast swing, and all the ballroom dancers are laughing at me going, oh my God, that's the foxtrot. So you have to go to people who know what they're doing. So birds of a feather flock together. So you go to the one who knows the most. So you can become like them. If you want to be a fireman, you go to fireman school. You want to be a policeman, you go to the academy. You want to be a musician, you learn theory. You want to be Dr. Rita, you just learn how to be beautiful. Right.
One of the things that I really liked that you said was about, taking one bite of the apple and another bite of the apple, because there are so many people that have the thought that, if I want to do this, then, it should happen within 5 minutes. Like I train people in medical intuition and energy medicine and intuitive counseling. And, the question I get from potential students, there's a word in there somewhere, is, well, what about clients, and they don't understand that it's a process, that you learn the work and you start reaching out, and it's a process. You can't, they have the expectation, well, I took this class and then as my dad would say, I hung a shingle and nobody's coming through my door, and they don't understand that you take one bite of the apple and then the next bite, and then spirit sits there and says, oh yeah, well, what about this? Oh yeah, well, what about this? And that's the next bite and the next bite. I mean, is that how spirit works for you? I know that's really how it works for me.
It does. It does. It works. In fact, no one can escape it. That's the law. As long as we're living linearly, as long as we're a slave to this monkey, that has anything to say about your life, we take steps. When we begin to live in whole thought and wholeness, those very thoughts, those very ideas, those very models simply begin to vanish. As I mentioned earlier about going to the doctor's office, 30 minutes lasts forever. Doing what you love, 5 hours goes by in no time. So, yeah, it works incrementally. And believe it or not, it's all self-induced. So when one begins to understand that everything that is, I love this word that we use in this word ongoingly, is congruent. What a beautiful idea.
I love that.
I just love it. It's got all its right power and placements. It's the enunciation, the syllables. Congruent. I'm congruent. There's no gray area. You are in it or
you're not.
You're not. And it's you just have to want to be congruent. You have to want to be in the it. What is the it? You already lost it by asking the question. You know what the it is by me saying you want to be in the it. God, Jesus, Buddha, whatever. In fact, get rid of all that. I just want that thing. And wanting that thing so much that the devotion in you says there's no way, that it's never going to happen. That's kind of the gig for me, is to move into that I just want that thing beyond anything I've ever known.
So I'm going to ask you kind of a trick question, okay? Because people have asked me this, and I'm going to say my pat answer, but I'm going to ask you the question, then I'll share my answer. So if you were to say, and you can go anywhere with this answer, what do you think you'll be doing in 5 years? What do you see for yourself 5 years out in the future?
So I'm around a industrial train station. So for those who have big stereo speakers, the ground is shaking. It sounds almost like a Star Wars flyer. What do I see myself doing in 5 years? I truly see myself being on a larger stage. This is not about selling books, being that guy on the stage. That is what's going to happen. That's what's happening now. It's what I've been doing. I see myself being truly a servant and a voice. Not because it's something... In fact, you know what? This is about ego. And I will explain to you, or to anyone, or to divulge what ego truly is for me, for all of us, when it's understood and blessed beyond measure versus this curse that we have about the ego. I love my fucking ego. I love being Keith Blanchard. I love doing the things I do that make me feel human, as to why I came here to have a little bit of fun. Okay? But without ego, you can't drive a car. You can't drive a car. You have no will in this body. You don't even have a body because you're so pure in this regard. So my ego, when I was a child reader, I was 8 years old. I was an altar boy. It was innate in me. I had no freaking desire to do anything. But I applied. I want to be an altar boy, and
you just wanted to get the wine. We know.
Yeah, I did. And I ate a bunch of communion wafers, and God loves me anyway. Right? But I couldn't wait. I just couldn't wait to go to the back of the church to look at the bulletin board to see if my name was in lights to be the altar boy for the next service. I couldn't wait. I just had an affinity for that. I loved it. And that's sort of my life now. And I think because that's alive in me, I feel alive. And in so doing, it's a drive in me. We talked about a car. You can't drive a car. It's a drive in me that wants to move, that moves inward, upward, forward, and toward something. It's a drive in me. It's a spiritual Ferrari, and I want to take everybody for a fucking ride. That's what I see myself doing, being a mouthpiece for a large amount of people, being a discipline of Swamiji, who has touched me, and my reality has shifted. He's impregnated me with this, and I'm grateful. I'm honored. I'm happy. I am.
So when people have asked me that question, I just look them straight in the face and go, I don't know. They haven't told me yet. Like if I have a choice, this is where I maybe would like to go, but I don't know. And I kind of feel like you really operate the same way. So you're like, well, this is kind of like what I'd like to be doing, but do you really know?
You don't. And the level that you know is the level that you know that you know. And some people guess and they hit their mark, and some people are willing to bet that and gamble with their life, hoping, expecting to hit a jackpot. Some do and some don't. Some jump off the mountain. We're talking about the cliff. Some people jump off the cliff gracefully and they land on their quote metaphorical feet beautifully. And some people do it. It's a complete disaster. And it's the same cliff. It's just perspective and basically how you jump. From what place inside are we jumping from the platform that we call or think is our center? Because life will definitely tell you, remember me?
But that ground might just be like a little obstacle that you needed to encounter so that you could move forward into the next stage of your being.
Yeah, and I've had you've heard the saying. Many people say, we heard the saying that in your sleep, if you jump off a cliff and you hit the ground, you die. That's bullshit. I became so hyper aware one night. I was falling off a cliff, and I had the awareness about myself to say, my body's on the bed, I'm safe, and I allowed myself to hit the ground.
Really?
I'm still here. Yeah, because as soon as I hit, the bang of the experience took me into another reality. So I didn't die. Maybe that reality died, but I didn't.
Cool. So I'm not sure how much more time we have for today.
I have another 15 minutes in me if you do, or less, or whatever you feel.
I'm kind of feeling complete, to be honest with you.
Well, give us a closing statement. Let us know how Dr. Rita is feeling about self-love and Valentine's Day.
I'm hoping that everyone that's listened has a better idea about connecting with yourself, finding out who you are, and I think more importantly, of making that choice to make a commitment to yourself, to loving yourself, to taking the time and energy to look inside and acknowledge who you are, and then hold that, love it, nurture it, kiss it every day, water it, take that bite of the apple, and move forward into the new you, the new, bigger and better, improved you. And I think it would be very interesting, a year from now on Valentine's Day, when you are looking to reevaluate yourself and your ability to love yourself, to see how many bites of that apple you've taken as you have made a full year cycle in the new you.
Would you please, for us, announce how these beautiful, sexy human souls can find more about you and what you do, why you do it, how you do, when you do it?
Whenever I can get away with it. Again, my name's Dr. Rita Louise. My website is soulhealer.com, SOULHEALER.com. From there, you can find my books and videos. If you would be interested in getting a medical intuition evaluation, psychic reading, or some energy work done, you can use the contact form and contact me directly. Again, my brand new book is The Dysfunctional Dance of the Empath and Narcissist. That's available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. And if you want an autographed copy, order directly from my website, and it will come that way to your home.
I love you.
I love you too.
Thank
I
you.
think we had some loving thing going on, a little love fest going on here today.
You're just amazing. Firecracker. Powerhouse. What was the other one?
I don't know.
Fireworks? Firecrack? No. Whatever they are.
No, it's spark. Well, I
Spitfire.
like
Spitfire.
Spitfire. Yeah, I like
Fireworks, Spitfire.
sparkly. And
Sparkly.
actually, my late husband, he used to call me Sizzle.
So you see, I'm on point. I was on point.
You are on point.
Thank you, sister. Your love beyond measure.
Well, I love you, and I'm here for you anytime.
Everyone, Dr. Rita Louise being my guest host tonight. In fact, I want to contact you. Give me 30 seconds. I want to share something with you. You gave me an epiphany tonight.
Okay.
Everyone, we'll see you soon. Keith Anthony Blanchard, Dr. Rita Louise. Peace, love, and light.